Okay, next we're gonna move on to talking about contrast. Contrast means the difference between colors, the difference between gray and black, difference between gray and white. It's difference, okay? Low contrast is a small difference. High contrast is a big difference. Now, I think you've seen this before. I've got two gray squares. If you look at these two gray squares and just concentrate on the gray and compare them to one another, which one would you say is lighter? I think 90% of you would say, this is the lighter square, okay? This gray looks darker. And they probably know what I'm gonna say. They are exactly the same. So colors aren't just dependent on mixing light or dark to make the color lighter or darker. It depends on the color that it's next to, okay? So in painting, if I want something to be really bright, I want to put something dark next to it because that'll make it bright. So for example, here's a picture. I don't even know if this is. Maybe you don't know what that is. You know what that is? It's a fire. Well, here's a fire on a white background, and here's the same exact fire on a black background. Look at how this picture, that fire looks bright, like there's light coming out of the painting. Why does it look bright? Because it's everything that surrounds it is so dark. Now you notice there's blues next to the oranges, and there's a little bit of violet next to the yellow, and a lot of black in here. So the fire looks bright and alive because it's next to something that's real dark. The same fire looks dull and dark. It doesn't even look like a fire because it's comparing to white. Same fire on gray wouldn't look as dramatic as it would on something dark like this, okay? So I want you to keep this in mind. The color that's next to another color can really affect it. Now, next thing, if I take colors, for example, if I take the color yellow, and let's say I put a bunch of yellow strokes. I'm just gonna go yellow strokes like this. And then I'm gonna take my violet strokes and add those right here. Now, if I put the violet right next to the yellow, or between the yellow, okay, you're gonna see a difference in the yellow. You can look now, if you look at, compare these strokes to these strokes look brighter, more of a white yellow, really bright. And the purple or the violet looks much darker here than it does over here. So when you place two complements next to each other, what's gonna happen is the two complements are gonna make the colors more intense or brighter. And if you've ever seen the Minnesota Vikings, their uniforms are purple and gold, and they look really brilliantly bright. Now, I like their uniforms. I don't like the team, but I like the uniforms, but because they're so brilliant. Now, if I put yellow next to gold, they both become more brighter and more intense. Let me show you something else. So I got a gray piece of paper here. I'm gonna lay that gray piece of paper on top. It's the same color gray, but when I divide that piece of paper, you're gonna see the two grays look very different, okay? This gray and this gray look very different from each other, and why is that? Because it's the color that they're next to, okay? So when this gray is next to yellow, it looks darker. When this gray is next to purple, it looks lighter. Now, you'll also look really close. This gray has a subtle amount of yellow. It has sort of a yellow glow to it, whereas this gray has a little bit of a purple glow to it, okay? Let me show you another example. Here, I'm gonna take orange and blue. So there's orange and blue. There's my gray square. I'm gonna separate them. Okay, now this gray has a hint of blue in it, and this has a glow of orange in it. It's very subtle, but it really changes things a lot, okay? And we'll do one more. Oh, already did that one. Let's do a red and a green. So there's your red and there's your green, and I'm gonna separate them. And now look at the difference between these two grays. So colors are dependent on what's next to them. So that being said, I'm gonna show you now how to put a background, a sharp background around your subject. The one thing that's a little bit difficult with pastels is getting a background that has a sharp edge because pastels are so blunt. It's not like a pencil that has a sharp tip, okay? So what I wanna do is I wanna make, if I've got something that has a sharp edge, I wanna show a sharp edge, and I'm gonna show you how to do that in our next video.